What is happening in Ghana at the moment is well known in the political science literature across the world. It is called the judicialization of politics. You know, in Ghana, we know of the politicization of the judiciary. That means the way in which the judiciary has been politicized. But what we are witnessing now is what they call the judicialization of politics, where the courts or the judiciary takes over the powers of policy making, or takes over issues of politics. Issues that are purely political or concerning politics have been taken over by the courts. And that means democracy is threatened by this, what people have called juristocracy. This is juristocracy and not democracy. So we are witnessing a situation where Ghana is moving from democracy to juristocracy. Sorry for these terms, but these are the terms that are used in the political science literature to illustrate the threat of democracy by the sweeping powers of courts, especially where these courts do not use these powers carefully or cautiously, or where courts or judges are clearly political in terms of their biases against one political party or for one political party. In the case of Ghana, it has been taken to a different low level of the politicization of the court, in the sense that in the last 8 years we have seen certain appointments of judges that give the impression that most of these judges are basically NPP supporters, or they are loyal members of the NPP party. If that is the case, as it seems to be, then the judicialization of politics becomes more dangerous for our democracy. So what happened? This is purely a political issue that the NPP majority leader has taken to the court. A purely political issue. I mean, the parliament is where the MPs are elected by the people to enact laws and to endorse policies for the benefit of the people, and the speaker is presiding over that organ of government. But here we have a case where a political issue now has been taken to the courts, and as I said, because of the politicization of the judiciary in Ghana, they give rulings that seem to appear political, that seem to now move the representation of the people in parliament to court. And bear in mind that judges are not elected by the people. So if they assume these powers, then our democracy is in trouble.
I see. So to you, what we are saying is what you call the judicialization of politics.
Yeah, judicialization of politics, and we are drifting from democracy to juristocracy.
And you're saying that what's the difference?
The difference is that with judicialization of politics, it means that the judges have now moved from being probably the legal field to the field of politics. In terms of separation of powers, instead of being a separate organ of government, they are now moving from that organ and combining it with the parliament or the legislature, which is a different organ of government. So that means there's no longer separation of powers. So that is the judicialization aspect. But the juristocracy now represents the fact that with this development, then democracy as we know it, as power that belongs to the people, exercised through their elected leaders like parliament and the presidency or the president, now has been transferred to the judiciary. So that means an unelected body that is not elected by the people is now exercising powers that threaten the people's will, the people's representatives to exercise power on their behalf.
So what you see is what is exactly what is playing out here. How do you expect the speaker to respond then?
Well, so it under normal circumstances, when there is a separation of powers, and if the speaker is to go by, the principle of separation of powers, it is an independent organ of government, just like the judiciary is an independent organ of government, just like the presidency or the executive. The speaker is supposed to assert his independence. And that is where there's going to be a conflict between the arms of government. And that's why I say with the judicialization of politics in Ghana and the drifting from democracy to juristocracy, we are beginning to see our democracy that has consolidated over 30 years now under threat because of a specific historical conjuncture where all these things have happened. I'm not saying that in the past we didn't have a semblance of judicialization of politics or the politicization of the judiciary, but it has been taken to a different level now where it is clearly the case that the judges are acting as politically rather than legally, or they are rather not interpreting the laws, but rather playing politics.
But this is, and when you talk about the judicialization and juristocracy, in all circumstances, it is the politicians that go to the courts. So, who does this benefit?
Exactly. This is an excellent question because so the politicians are also to blame, because if they were to respect the separation of powers principle, then they will play their politics and the judges will be there to interpret the law, or if the need arises for them to exercise their powers of judicial review. And the powers of judicial review is for a good purpose. That is to counteract this majoritarian principle where a party with the majority can just decide to do whatever they want regardless of the law. So normally it should be a kind of checks and balances for judicial review to come in. But where politicians, knowing that the courts have all these sweeping powers, and where they have politicized the courts through appointments, now believe that the way to win power or the way to probably defeat an opponent is to take purely political issues or policy-making issues to the court to decide, knowing that they will get the favor of judges they've appointed, then that is the problem. And clearly, that's what the MPP is doing, and the history is showing it, because this Supreme Court has given judgments that are clearly biased against other parties. Look at the Asim North case. The MP was injuncted by the same Supreme Court, which is now saying that they believe that people's right to be represented in Parliament is threatened. That's why they gave this injunction. I mean, what a contradiction. They are the same people who have not taken a decision on the SAL case, where, the Electoral Commission denied citizens of Ghana from being represented in Parliament. And the Supreme Court or the judicial system have not done anything about it. We are also witnessing a situation where one bill that has been sent to the president has not being passed or signed or assented to by the president because there's a case pending before the Supreme Court which has not acted on that case. Yet it found it necessary to act with speed. In fact, breakneck speed in this case. So clearly, we are seeing a situation where this Supreme Court is, it's not anybody who is distrusting it, but the behavior of the court, the judgments they give. We are human beings. We are able to interpret. We are discerning human beings. It's not about just that people are just saying that, oh, the court now is passed and is biased, but they are seeing it in the actions that the court, they take or their behavior. And once the people are saying distrust you, they don't have confidence in you, with all your awesome powers, with all the powers that you have, if people do not trust the judiciary, as it seems to be the case now, then people are likely to take the law into their own hands, and we are returning to what they call in politics Hobbesian state of nature, where there is no state, and it's the survival of the fittest. And that's why the judiciary should be minded in the exercise of its powers.
And I'm guessing there must be consequences for all the four arms if this continues. Because like you said, Parliament, the Supreme Court has made so many interventions on decisions taken by Parliament to the point that some of the standing orders of Parliament have subsequently changed. One of them includes even whether or not the person presiding, if the person is an MP, can vote. The Supreme Court has changed that rule. So what are the consequences, both for the Supreme Court itself and then for the other arms of government?
The consequences with the juristocracy is that democracy is no longer practiced, and which then means that all these nine laws or constitutional clauses and articles on separation of powers, on the review, the judicial review powers of the courts, and then the executive powers and all that, human rights of people, of the citizens, are all under jeopardy. I mean, because it is when the courts stay at the neutral, ground when it comes to the law, when it comes to the exercise of its powers, that people can trust it. But if I know I'm going to court and I'll not get justice because there is a certain perception which is, has been proven or seems to be well founded from the previous decisions of the court, and even the way they are able to act with speed in certain cases, and then when it comes to certain cases, they are as slow as a snail, then your credibility is completely questioned. And once you lose your credibility, whether you are a leader of an organization, whether you are a parent, whether you are a politician, anywhere that you are asked to lead, once you lose your credibility, your integrity, then people will not trust you. And that means they will begin to disrespect you. And in this case, this is a serious matter because the judiciary is one of the arms of government that is supposed to come in and bring about stability, political stability, by gauging the temperature in the society and taking decisions that will restore peace and stability. But where the judiciary has become like the politicians, it's like a zero-sum struggle for power, by taking sides and taking decisions that seem to show that they have become politicians rather than neutral arbiters of the law. Then citizens are going to distrust them. The other parties are going to distrust them, and then we are going to have chaos, and we are back to the state of nature, where the survival of the fittest becomes the principle rather than democracy.
And let me conclude by asking you, as my colleague Henry George Martins who always says that the law has to appeal to common sense. In fact, the law is supposed to be common sense. I'm sure you've read the provision in question, which the speaker communicated on. Do you think the speaker did anything wrong?
No, the speaker is basically just following what the Constitution asks him, the powers the Constitution has given him. He just made an announcement based on the fact that these 4 MPs are no longer members of the parties that they stood and contested for power. And even those parties, the NPP party itself, by its constitution says, once you decide to stand as an independent or anything, that means that is not about the party, you are not standing on the ticket of the party, then you lose your membership of the party. So it's common sense that once you lose your membership of a party, you can no longer be seen to be representing citizens that voted for you because you stood on the ticket of that party. This is the no-brainer. And yeah, the lawyers can come with all their legal arguments, those elitist principles that they use, but the important principle in democracy is that power belongs to the people. The judges, the legislators, the president, and all those ministers are supposed to be servants of the people. So where you begin to exercise your powers without considering the fact that you are the servant of the people, without considering the fact that your discretion should be informed by the welfare of the people and not to act capriciously as if you can do whatever you want. Yes, you have the power, you can do whatever you want, but the Constitution requires you to use that power in a way that will promote the welfare of the citizens. You cannot just use it anyhow.
Prof, thank you very much for speaking to us.